The palace might look good on the outside, but what about the inside? Hi, I'm your host Heatwave, and in today's lore episode, I'll be exploring the interior of the Imperial Palace in our part 2. To look at the grandeur of the palace, it's a gift like no other. Its hallways and corridors speak of an age gone, but certainly not forgotten. Welcome back to the Wings of Fire spin-off series Empire of Pareena. In this lore episode, I'll be exploring the Imperial Palace's inner sanctums, hallways, corridors, and other noteworthy interior spaces. But let's start at the outside and work inwards. In the first episode, I described that the walls of the palace feature multiple gun positions, so let's look at how these gun positions work on the inside. First built in 1717, each earth shaker is placed into a large, smooth stone box. The space is large, allowing the gun to be moved forward and backwards. The earth shaker itself is an older design mounted on a rail system to withstand the recoil. The rail also allows the gun to move horizontally and vertically at a 45-degree angle. There is also two boom arms to aid in preventing the recoil from ripping the gun carriage apart. In the gun position is space for extra ammunition behind the gun. Each earthshaker takes a crew of 7, but how does the crew and ammunition get up into a 5-kilometer high wall? Well, behind the gun chambers are long stone shafts. These shafts lead right into the catacomb chambers that house the gun crews, their barracks. Each shaft is about 6 kilometers long and is wide enough for a dragon to fly up and down through. As implied, artillerymen use these shafts to reach the gun chambers. Now for ammunition, deep into the catacombs lies the wall magazines, a vast stockpile of ammunition for the earthshakers. The magazine is mounted into a wet configuration to prevent ammunition cook-off underneath the palace. Each wall features a number of pulley systems that are used to hoist ammunition up to the gun chambers. So with the inside of the walls done, let's discuss the actual chambers and halls of the palace proper, starting with the Great Hall situated at the front of the palace, just beyond its great doors. The Great Hall is one of the oldest parts of the palace. While it may look simple, this long hall is the original site of the imperial throne, first sat upon, of course, by Empress Ocean. The hall can accommodate around 150 dragons and was first used to hold government way back in Pareena's history. Now it serves to honour our vast history. The hall has been refurbished and refunded over the cycles as a glimpse of the glories long ago. The walls are made of liquid stone and wood carvings, with long royal blue banners draping down to the floor, which itself is laid in soft red carpet. The ceiling is high, very high, and draping down from gold chains are the large banners of each line battalion. Along the walls are large stained glass windows. Such glass is ancient, way before my time, and all windows in the palace end up depicting great spectacles of Pareena. The back wall, opposite the doors, sits the first Empress's throne. Made of simple wood and gold highlights, perfectly crafted, it lies vacant and draped with a banner of the Empire. Behind the throne is the carved sigil of the Empire. By the throne sits 2 doors. Both lead to the domicile, but the right door is only used by non-government staff and visitors. Now, the Great Hall may seem like it's a bit over-exaggerated by the decor, and this is on purpose. It's the first thing many common dragons see upon visiting the palace, so creating an inspiring and uplifting atmosphere is the role of this space. Of course, not every dragon can wander the halls and corridors of the palace. This hall is the site of one of the few checkpoints throughout the palace. This screens out visitors and those who actually work in the palace. To ease this process, the staff of the palace and government admin clerks carry a special badge of office, It's just a gold medal with the Imperial seal on it, allowing them to traverse the palace unhindered by the custodii. Speaking of custodii, they too have a presence in the hall, lining up either side of the hall. They stand not only as guards, but as a gleaming spectacle. They don't move, flinch, or even speak, and will stand in perfect discipline for hours. To aid the custodii, they've actually fitted 2 tanks in the hall. Now, I'll cover the custodii in their own separate episode, of course, but they do have 6 named and venerable tanks under their service. But in the confined space like the hall, they're more for decoration, standing side by side at the throne of the first empress. Crossing a simple thoroughfare, we arrive at the domicile, which holds the Imperial Parliamentary Council. Now, I've covered the layout of the Imperial Parliamentary Council and its chambers in my dedicated episode on it, so I won't rehash it here. But the domicile has 3 layers. The stained glass windows of the domicile itself above, which is bigger than the chamber below it. Below that is a rotunda. This is a suspended ring platform under the domicile. It's just used for maintenance. And below that, in a seashell configuration, is the seats of government, including the throne of the Imperator. It is in this space that the future of Pareena is debated, discussed, and signed off. Behind the domicile is another large thoroughfare with ramps leading up, down, left, and right, all leading to the primary complex of the palace. This multi-level complex is the primary space for all the upfront administration needs the Empire requires to function. It holds office spaces, the library, public and private meeting spaces, the government feasting hall, and other vastly important rooms and areas. The area is arranged in a square formation. The whole complex is about 6 by 6 kilometers square and has 18 floors. I guess I'll go floor by floor then. Each is laid out in the same way. The hallways are carpeted and is lit by glow spheres with flowing blue cloth and curtains. The southern-facing wall is lined with archway windows that look out to the city and let much needed light in. I'll start with the top floor. This floor is dedicated to the government itself. It features the personal living spaces of the Imperial Parliamentary Council. They all live in the palace with whatever family they have. And it's here they share a lavish lifestyle, of course, only through their elective term, not to get too comfortable. Each personal quarter is stocked with the same basic furniture, a desk, a shelf, a large variety of pillows, soft sleeping aids. It's up to the individual to then decorate their space. This space is also used to house government clerks from outside the palace. The atmosphere in this floor is unwelcoming to me. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just not allowed up there anymore. Below, the next 12 floors are dedicated to the vast offices of each department. Here they occupy desks and chambers filled with scrolls and books. It's their job to file government paperwork, crunch numbers, and keep track of their department's roles and contribution. The layout of these office chambers is uniform. Each room contains a desk, a vast sorting shelf, and it's up to the poor administrative clerk to organize their space correctly, making sure they are stocked up on ink, quills, and spare scrolls. I should know, both my parents worked in these very spaces. I saw myself the work they do. It was kind of boring. I prefer history over writing numbers. Each floor can hold up to 100 of these individual chambers for staff. On the 13th floor is the kitchen and staff eating space. The stone kitchen holds all that is needed to create a halfway decent meal. I mostly go for the cake. Most ways of cooking include boiling or baking. While dragons can eat raw food, it tastes better if it's prepared and cooked correctly. The feasting space contains also a few simple long tables. The kitchen is quite big, same with the dining hall, being able to seat 350 dragons for a meal. But I rarely eat there. I prefer to eat in my spire. The 14th floor is the Museum of Imperial History. This room holds the hundreds of relics from Pareena's history. everything that has been preserved and presented for future generations of dragonettes to learn. I won't list every treasure and relic here, but it's a beautiful space, viewing everything of old. I love this space. I will do a further episode on relics a little bit later though. Below on floor 15 and 16 is the Imperial Library. In fact, this space is hollow in the center. It features large rows of bookshelves located on the walls and both levels and in the aisles too. The library must remain very quiet, as to be expected. Each book is catalogued in topic and date, with some of the oldest scrolls going back to the War of Unification and even beyond that. Now, this is the biggest library in Pareena, but it's not the only one. One is situated in Shady Sands, and there is one in the Silver Pavilion in Claw Mountain. I used to work at the library when I was a little younger, organising the books and dealing with librarian Maya. He was an old, sour, mudwing librarian. He still works there. He makes a big fuss when it comes to keeping his library in complete order. One time, he made me stay back and locate a lost book. It took me 2 hours, but I found it. 10 Tales for Sleepy Dragonettes. In fact, I remember one silly rainwing came in after some heavy rain and left talon marks all over the floor. Maya went ballistic. He roared so loudly even the Empress heard him, and I had to scrub the floor, which wasn't fun. Anyway, on the outer edge of the library are reading nooks and tables for books. This is one of the only parts of the palace open to the common dragon, this and the museum upstairs. The last 2 floors were used to store available resources, spare scrolls, ink pots. It also contains the palace communal bathing spaces and the latrine. But during the War of the Red Sands, the 18th floor was converted into a military intelligence office. Now let's look at the Gilded Academy for Dragonettes. This school is there for those Dragonettes who call the palace home. It's a simple school having 4 classrooms. It's a good school with access to the library and the museum. It has a little laboratory and a quiet space for the more younger Dragonettes to take a nap. And for recess, the students would head out onto the wall and play. I did go to this school as a Dragonette, of course. Now the spires. Nothing much here but a platform at the top of each spire looking over the city below. My office is pretty simple too. A desk, a shelf, and all my bedazzling radio equipment. Now before I wrap up this episode, a quick note on the Empress's Tower. I'm not allowed in there for security reasons. Apparently I have to be supervised. So I'll cover that space in episode 5 when I actually get the proper credentials to get in. I'll say that the spaces in the palace are actually very large, enough to allow even the biggest mudwings through. The inside of the palace too, if it wasn't obvious, are made primarily of wood with gold highlights. Access across the different levels of the palace, though, is done by ramps. Thanks for watching. Please remember to leave a comment, like, or subscribe to help the algorithm present this content to a wider audience. And don't forget the channel goals with special rewards. This is Heatwave, signing off.